Today we'll learn about barriers to effective communication. A number of barriers can retard or distort effective communication. In this section, we highlight the more important of these barriers, like number one is filtering, the other one is selective perception, information overload, emotions, language, and communication apprehension. So this is the interesting topic, communication apprehension. This is another major barrier to effective communication, is that some people, an estimated 5 to 20% of the population, suffer from debilitating communication apprehension or anxiety. Although lots of people dread speaking in front of a group, communication apprehension is a more serious problem because it affects a whole category of communication techniques. People who suffer from it experience undue tension and anxiety in oral communication, written communication, or sometimes both. For example, oral apprehensives may find it extremely difficult to talk with others face to face or become extremely anxious when they have to use the telephone. As a result, they may rely on memos or faxes to convey messages when a phone call would be not only faster but more appropriate. Studies demonstrate that oral communication apprehensives avoid situations that require them to engage in oral communication. We should expect to find some self-selection in jobs so that such individuals don't take positions such as a teacher, for which oral communication is a dominant requirement. You see, the people who have this communication apprehension can't be like a good teacher, because for the teachers oral communication is the main mandatory requirement. But almost all jobs require some oral communication, and of greater concern is the evidence that high oral communication apprehensives distort the communication demands of their jobs in order to minimize the need for communication. So we need to be aware that there is a set of people in organizations who severely limit their oral communication and rationalize this practice by telling themselves that more communication is not necessary for them to do their job effectively. So these kind of people who have this communication apprehension, they tell that for doing our job effectively, more communication is not required, or it is not necessary. But some jobs require this communication as a mandate, right? Because we have seen an example of teachers. They have to communicate in a proper way to the students, so that students should be able to understand what the teacher is telling, right? What the teacher is or what the mentor is. So communication is very, very, very important. The way we communicate, even a doctor, if a patient comes, the way of communication is very important, right? The patient should be able to explain or tell all her symptoms, pain symptoms, like their stress, agonies, everything. They should be able to communicate in a better way. For example, the doctor himself or herself is frustrated, and the patient hesitates to give the complete detailed history of the present and the past illness, though. So there may be some sort of misdiagnosis, or the doctor may not reach the proper diagnosis. So, but in all cases, the profession of doctor may not require the effective communication. Okay, some, of course, 80% may require effective communication between a doctor and a patient. And we'll learn now emotions, how the emotions will become the barriers of the effective communication. So how the receiver feels at the time of receipt of a communication will influence how he or she interprets it. The same message received when you are angry or distraught is often interpreted differently from when you are happy. Extreme emotions such as jubilation or depression are most likely to hinder effective communication. In such instances, we are most prone to disregard our rational and objective thinking processes and substitute emotional judgments. So, this is again a kind of barrier for the effective communication. So, what happens the way we communicate is very important. The poison can be turned into nectar, and the nectar can be turned into poison. I have seen in one reel by some famous doctor. He said that even while feeding, he has undergone one experiment. While feeding the rabbits also, if you cuddle them and if you give the food properly with proper love and affection, that and the state of mind of that rabbit while eating, that is very important, right? So that made that has given some good result than when the rabbit has been given in a frustration or anger without cuddling or something else. So this is very, very important. So the state of mind, the awareness, the consciousness while eating is also very important. For example, you are very angry, you are under stress, you are under depression, and you are eating all these things, and that may not get digested properly.